Hello, students. We're in week 15 of Psychology of Global Political Behavior, and I promised you that I would give you additional information on the written assignment that is your kind of final of this course. It's worth 20 points. The written assignment, I went over that in week 8 of your course, and you can go back and review that if you want to. But hopefully you've been working on this since week 8. If you haven't, that's okay. This will sound like brand new information to you. But I'll go over the guidelines again, and I'll give you some additional information as promised in your syllabus tentative course schedule, okay? All right, so this week we have no work due at the end of the week. But next week, which is finals week, you're going to be um, working on this and then turning it in by the due date for week 16. So refer to your syllabus for that date and time that it is due, okay? Now, it says this written assignment will be due at the end of the semester. Check your syllabus tentative course schedule for the due date. The topic that this written assignment is based on is from the chapter in your textbook that we didn't cover, called The Psychology of Nationalism, Ethnic Conflict, and Genocide. And that's chapter 13 in your textbook, okay? So you want to scan the chapter and look specifically at the Psychology of Genocide section in that chapter, okay? And then understand it, take some notes. This is what you're going to do for the written assignment that's due next week. You're going to think about Native Americans in the U.S. during the colonial period of U.S. history, okay? And then you're going to find a book or a journal article about that period of our history. So I have a link to Google Scholar here, and you can find books and journal articles on the colonial period and Native Americans. Those are the search terms that I would probably use to look this information up, okay? Now, as you write the paper, the reader will want to know a synopsis of outsiders who came to America to colonize, okay? And then the insiders who were already here, the indigenous peoples, who were already in America before this colonial period, okay? So you want to write a synopsis using your source or sources in 2 paragraphs, okay? So you want to, summarize information. Don't directly quote information from a book or a journal article, but, summarize information and then cite the source, okay? Just quickly, how do you cite the source? I'm going to stop sharing this, and then I'm going to go to Google Scholar, if I can find it here. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, I should have it here somewhere. That's our syllabus. Sorry about that. Let's see if I have the internet here. Let me try this. Okay, so I'm going to go to Google Scholar right now, and I'm going to look up a source that you would, excuse me, on Native Americans and colonial period, U.S. Okay, let me just see if I can find something here. All right, so this one says Native Americans, New Voices, American Indian History, 1895-1995. This will talk about the colonial period through the War of 1812. All right, so I'm going to pull up this PDF if I can, and hopefully it's showing on the screen here. This is by R. David Edmonds. The source is the American Historical Review. Okay. Now, let me try to split screen this. I'm going to stop the share just for a minute, but you can go back in your video and look at this again. And let me pull up a Word document that I can type into. I'll just make a new one. And let's say that we summarize some information from this paper, and we want to cite the source. Well, this is by Edmonds, and it was published in 1995. So Edmonds 1995 is a citation you would put after you write some kind of summary of, the information from that source, okay? And then in the references section at the end of your paper, I'll just kind of center that and bold it. I'm going to write for you the full source, so you can see how it's referenced at the end of your paper. Okay. Now this is by Edmonds R.D. Okay, Edmonds R.D. Edmonds R.D. and it was published in 1995. And the title of that article is called Native Americans' New Voices. Native Americans' New Voices. Oops. Okay, now you only capitalize the very first word in the title and then only proper nouns as well. So Native Americans is a proper noun, so you'll capitalize both of those, or you'd have an uppercase letter on both of those. And then this one, new, should be lowercase. Then after a colon, you're going to have an uppercase letter, okay, to start that. And the rest of this is American Indian history, 1895-1995. American Indian history, what was it again? 1895 through 1995. All right, that's the title of that work. Now I need to write down the journal name, the American Historical Review. Historical, I can spell, review. Then I need the journal number. Excuse me. It's number 100 in volume 3. So in parentheses, I put the volume number, or in the issue number, I'm sorry. And then I need page numbers. So it's pages 717 to 740 here. Okay. Now, what you want to do in the references section is always double space. And then I'm going to click on this down button next to paragraph. And I want to have hanging indent for my references section. Okay, do you see that? So this line, the very first line of any kind of reference item, is going to be all the way left justified. And then the second line is going to be indented. Okay, so that's called hanging indent. Now, what do I italicize? I'm going to italicize the journal name and the volume number only. Okay, and this is a properly formatted reference. Now, how do I find this information on the internet? Okay, how do I find this formatting information? Well, I'm going to click on the internet here. And now I'm going to go to APA 7th edition. APA stands for the American Psychological Association Style. Okay, you can see the link right down here. It says APA Style. And then you'll get to their web page. I'm going to click on Style and Grammar Guidelines. Do you see that in the center here? And then I'm going to find paper format. Okay. And then down at the bottom, you're going to see something called sample papers. You can open that up. And then you can see sort of in the middle of the web page, the student sample paper without annotations, okay? And I clicked on that already. And let me share that sample student paper with you right now, okay? Now this, you can just use this to format your paper, okay? This is a cover sheet, and you can put in your title here, whatever it may be. Let's say genocide, let's see, Native Americans during the colonial period in America. How's that? You know, I'm just making up a title. You can change it later, whatever. It's just a placeholder right now. And then I'm going to put my own name since I'm going to be the author of this paper. And then it's the Department of Psychology at Eastern New Mexico University. Okay. Now our course name is Psych 312 or Polls 312, whatever section you're in. And we're going to call this Psychology of Global Political Behavior. So see, what I'm doing is changing things here on the title sheet, okay? And so put the name of your instructor and then whatever date it is, you know, maybe it's that, okay? I don't know. Whatever date you turn this in is the date you'll put on the cover sheet, okay? So this is a properly formatted cover sheet. Now, on page 2, we're not going to have an abstract. We're just going to start the paper. I'm going to copy this title, and then I'm going to paste the title above the work that's on page 2. Let me center this and bold it the way it was before, okay? And then I'll start writing the paper, okay? Now, you can erase all this stuff because you're going to write your own paper, right? And so I'll just erase it all the way down to the references section, like that. And I'll start typing the paper here. And then I can get rid of all the references that they have in their sample paper. But you can see they're all formatted here, right? So if you need help with formatting, you can do that. But then you'll start your reference list. Anything that you cite in your paper up here is going to appear in that references section, okay? Now, there is another section on the APA website in Style and Grammar Guidelines where you can look up how to format references. You see this references link here? It's under Style and Grammar Guidelines References. And then they have some reference examples here. And if you're, you know, getting some information from a source in a journal article, you can click on this link. If you're getting information from a book source, then you can click on this link and see how those are formatted, okay? All right, very good. So I gave you some information about APA format there. Let me go back to the guidelines now. All right. So far we have a few paragraphs that we've written. And it's been on Native Americans in the United States during the colonial period of the U.S. history. And then also, what is the synopsis of outsiders who were coming to America to colonize and the insiders or the indigenous people who were already here in America before colonization, okay? That's what we've written so far in the paper. The next part, it says you will then set up and answer these questions in your next 2 paragraphs using the textbook definition of what mass killing and genocide is or are, and ideas from the chapter about genocide. Did colonizers in early America, according to the textbook definition, commit genocide against Native Americans. So you're going to write a paragraph about that. And then you're going to support that information with the textbook information, okay? And you'll probably want to cite the author of our textbook, right? And the year it was published. Why did they or did they not commit genocide? That's the second question that you're going to answer in your writing. What is the psychological theory or framework from your textbook that describes and explains the situation? Well, that's all in chapter 13. Okay, so look up what is the psychological framework or theory that supports what you're writing about. Okay, all this information comes from your textbook, chapter 13. Okay. And then your last paragraph is going to be a conclusion paragraph that ties everything together. Okay, you'll talk about what you said before, all the logical threads that you put in your writing, and sum all of that up in a nice conclusion paragraph. Okay. Now, that APA website, I put the link right here, and you can just hit Control click on your keyboard or right click this and hit open hyperlink, okay? And then you can find the style and grammar guidelines, the paper format, the sample paper I just showed you, and the sample student paper without annotations. That's the link. And that is a Word document, okay? So again, you can just erase what's there and put in your own information and then start writing the paper, okay? So all we need is that cover sheet. Then we need your writing, all these paragraphs that I talked about in the guidelines. And then at the end, you'll have your references section, okay? I know in other disciplines, they use something called works cited or sources or whatever. In psychology, we don't use those titles. We use the word references, okay? For that last section that shows all of the sources and that information in the references section, okay? So don't forget that. And then submit this paper by the due date and time that it's due, okay? There are no extensions for this paper, so please get on it right now and do your best and get it done, and that's your final item for this course, okay? I've really enjoyed all of your work during this course, and I appreciate what you've done. And I hope you've learned a little something about, psychology of global political behavior. All right. Now, your course evaluation should be showing up either this week or next week. So make sure that you evaluate my teaching and make any comments, please, so that I can improve my teaching in the future. All right. All right, very good. We are not going to have a lecture next week, but your paper will be due next week, okay? So pay attention to the due date and get that in. And you guys all take care of yourselves and have a great rest of the time this year, okay? All right, bye-bye.